y'all, I'm so scared I'm going to raise some preppy ass, spoiled ass youngins. You know what I mean? And like, I'm also, which I probably should not say this, but there's a Christian school that is like notorious near us for their kids just coming out cokeheads. Like, did you come out a cokehead, or you don't have to answer that?
Well, hey, welcome to Tailgate Beers. We've got Austin and Ryan here as normal. Hey, we have a special guest today, and super excited to sit down and hear some of Macy Nicole's story. What brings her to where she is at today as an artist, some of her background, some of the ups and downs and the highs and the lows that she has gone through in life, how she has adapted to that, how she has become a better person because of that. And I'm super excited for all of our Tailgate Beers listeners and followers to hear Macy's story, and welcome. Welcome to Peoria, Illinois. Welcome to Tailgate Beers.
Hey, thank you for having me. That's a big ticket to fill. We'll see if we can squeeze all that in
right,
here.
Right. We might be here a little while. The good news is, so Macy, you're went out of the way. You and your team here went out of the way to come and sit down with us today, and we can't stress enough how appreciative to you and your team, Colin, for working this out as well, to be able to come and just sit down and talk to us.
Hey, I appreciate y'all, I mean, I wouldn't have nowhere to go if it wasn't for y'all or anything to talk about.
Because Ryan's been telling me, hey, this Macy girl, what about getting her on? I'm like, dude, I figured whatever you want to plan, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, they're on their way to another show, so they're going to like stop in. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I'm so appreciaptive.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, they're on their way to Michigan. And I'm like,
drawing the line on the map.
I don't know that this is on the way to fucking Michigan. Like, so I was like, I mean, more power to them. And Lakeview's playing tonight. So, I think you guys are kind of fans or connected with them and stuff. So I'm like, what a perfect night for you guys to get to see, the show, see what Cruisins is about, have a fun time. And we're beyond grateful. So
I usually just do what Colin tells me to do. You know what I mean? And so like he just was like, we're gonna go to Illinois, and I was like, yes, we're gonna get Chris in Chicago.
It's beautiful this time of year.
And he's like, no, you're gonna do a podcast, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. And this was a while back, and then we're planning out our whole trip, and I'm like, here we have to go here. Call Colin, hey, why are we going to this place? What's going on? And then he told me, and I was just so excited. It didn't even seem like an out of the way thing anymore. It just was like, all right, we're gonna go here, here, and here. My kids were super confused when I was telling them where I was going.
Even your kids are like, Mom, I don't know if you know this yet, but this is not like on the way.
Yeah.
You get mad when we have to stop for bathroom breaks and you're sitting here saying you're going to drive clear out of the way.
They're like, you have one show, you're going to be going for 5 days. How's this going on, Mom? When are you coming back?
How old are the kids?
They're 9 and 5.
Okay.
So my 5-year-old, she actually, when we were walking out the door, she just went, have fun in Nashville. And I said, okay, that's once again not where we're going. But
and then you have a boy or girl.
So a 5-year-old little girl and a 9-year-old little boy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Those are fun ages.
Yeah, so I'm major busy all the time.
Can imagine.
Just all the time.
So tell us about your story, and I've heard, and I've watched a lot of the podcasts that you've done previously, and I know that you are obviously no stranger to podcasts either, and love to hear about more of the plans and what you've been doing podcast wise, but then also what you have coming up, because I think there's some exciting stuff there as well. So talk to us from the beginning. I know you were a teen mom. You had a lot that you were dealing with as a teenager in high school. Mm-hmm. How does that make you the person that you are today?
I think one word, simply, it gives me stubbornness. Yeah. It just makes me like, I don't accept that I can't get what I want. I don't accept that there's no way to make it happen. Because like, I was 17 and I was like, okay, Mom, bye. I'm going to go rent this trailer for $350 a month and raise this baby, and like I jumped into the world thinking that, and now knowing like here we are almost 10 years later, and I'm like, girlfriend, that was dangerous, but I really just jumped into the world and figured out how to make it happen. And I like, forged by fire. That was my whole kind of being in existence for years, was just I was walking through the fire and like keep grinding, keep going. This isn't what I want, but I'll get it one day. And eventually it just like gave me this confidence in myself that I didn't even have. I just was like trying to survive and feed my kid for a while. And then one day I turned around and was like, oh, wow, I'm actually really good at, figuring out how to make things happen. So it took a lot of struggle, but it taught me so much confidence in myself that now I feel like I just exude nothing but get up and go and do it. You know what I mean?
And we don't live in a society that looks at, hey, I'm going to be a 17-year-old mom as you're on your way to success or anything like that. We live in a society it's like your life's done, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that then could move into that trailer for $350 a month and never leave anything and never go anywhere.
Yeah, my daddy was really mad at me when I left that trailer. Really mad at me. Because I think I had paid him enough money at that point. It was his property, and the trailer was supposed to be mine at some point, but I guess I had paid him enough money to not pay him anything anymore. And so that was when I was like, okay, I can afford to go somewhere else. I can afford to figure something else out. And he was like, no, that's not safe. You can't do that. Like, you need to stay at the job that you're at and stay in this house and just build a life here. And I just was like, sorry, Dad, gotta fly and, scare you half to death for a while. Which, looking back, I'm sure my daddy was scared for me for a long time. Because, I honestly was just blindly. I wasn't like succeeding and succeeding and succeeding. It was more like lot to failure back to back. But we were surviving, which is, that was the only goal at the time. But yeah, I think I ended up, I don't know, just building this whole persona of like, whatever, I'm gonna do it anyway, because nobody likes a 17-year-old pregnant girl. You know what I mean? Nobody has big dreams for a girl who, was the trouble kid in high school, and she didn't seem like she was really gonna do good things, and here I am.
Were you that bad in high school?
Yeah, I was horrible. I was terrible. I was pregnant at 17. Come on now. What got me there?
I know, but there are people that can like have a whoopsies and it happened.
Yeah,
but I didn't know if you were like, were you a really, really bad kid, or were you like, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, I was a ridiculously bad teenager, and I don't even know like what the heck I was looking for, but I was just yearning. I think I've always just been yearning for something different, which is just a blessing and a curse. Because like here I am with this personality that's like, oh yeah, I don't have to do what everybody else does because that's not normal for me, and I don't really care about those things and fitting in or being in the trends or whatever. I'm just trying to live, but a lot of people would like to see that from.
So was it kind of a rebellion? Where you were like a rebel? If everything that your parents told you shouldn't be doing, that made you want to do it that much more.
Yeah, like my mom would be like, okay, 10 o'clock, I'm locking the door, and I'd show up at 10:03, and
just to be the rebel.
And she did lock the door. Let me say this. Every interview I've ever done, I've made sure to say something about my mother. I come from an encouraging woman, okay? That woman constantly spoke good into me, even when I was like, some of the things I did, I want to write her an apology letter, I just was horrendous. And she still was just always like, you're going to do great things. You're going to be incredible. You're a powerful young woman. I'll send you to military school if I have to, Macy Nicole. Like she was behind me, like, you're going to be a good girl. You're going to be a good person. You're going to be a good woman. And I always swore I'd never have kids. I swore I was just always going to be this angry person. And then I got my little blessing at 17
And you and your mom still have a good relationship now, still?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I couldn't live without her. To this very moment, actually. As we were walking in the door, there was an emergency that she had texted me and said, it's all good. So I can't live without my mother.
So I've heard the story of you going to have the conversation with your mom and all of that, and you can tell anything about that you would like, but also to give you some credit too, at 17-year-old, and as much as a bad teenager you were, just even in preparing for that conversation you started to plan. You started to figure out. You took 3 days, I think it was, off the top of my head, and started to figure out the path forward.
Yeah.
And having that conversation with her, wanted to have the conversation with her. It sounded
Right.
like she wasn't quite ready for that yet at the time.
No.
But
it took her 3 days as well.
but the head on the shoulders that you
Yeah.
had there to kind of, all right, this is life, and this is what the cards, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to make this successful, or
Yeah. I think at that point my parents had really just said enough times that they weren't dealing with this crap anymore that I was like, this is it. I've hit the wall. There's nothing to do now.
yeah.
Like, oh God.
I've broke them.
I did the one thing, and like my stepdad took my phone when I got pregnant, and and I immediately was just like, what is that gonna do? There's no going back on this, dude.
Yeah.
You can't ground me from this, But I didn't want to be told how wrong I was. That was it. I had been told already so many times that there were going to be consequences that now I felt like I was looking at the consequence,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just was like, shit, I have to admit that I did the wrong thing. And I have to now also take up for it.
Yeah.
And I know what Kelly's going to say. Kelly's going to say, oh, I told you not to do this. Oh, I told you this was going to happen. Oh, you're wrong. You're not going to be able to do this by yourself. So I went and got all the paperwork and the insurance and the ultrasounds and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the nurse, I don't think I told this story on the Baby Mom podcast. I remember the nurse telling me, or calling me mama. And I remember being in that chair. This 17-year-old kid who also knows for a full-fledged fact that her boyfriend is not a good dude. You know what I mean? Like, he's just not good baby daddy potential off the bat. And so I'm sitting in all this regret, and this woman goes, all right, Mom. And I'm just like, oh, God.
That's me.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm mama. I'll get it together. And I remember staring at my feet and having my hands like this, and there were like 2 tears, and I just was like, all right, you don't get to do that shit anymore, you dumbass. you gotta suck it up. I was so mad at myself. So it honestly was just that. I wanted to get to her and be like, I already know what you're gonna say, and I don't want you to be able to say that. Like, I want to be able to say it's gonna be okay, because now I have to take up for this thing. Like, this is gonna be a human child. And I also, in the first week, probably was full-fledged convinced that she was going to let me get rid of it. And I was certain that that was the solution. Like, nothing, I saw nothing past that. I didn't see any future as a mother at all. And because, like I said, I was an angry teenager. So I didn't see any future as a mother, and I knew I was just going to run around and be kooky and crazy, and a baby did not fit into that, you know what I mean? And when I finally got her sat down and was like, okay, let's go get rid of it. You come on and you sign the papers. I thought she was going to be like, okay. And she was not. She was like, oh, no. No, ma'am. Not doing that. She said, I don't care if I have to drag that baby out of you and raise it myself. We are not doing that. And that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because I didn't have an excuse anymore. Like, when you have a mouth to feed, y'all know what that feels like. Like, you can take the biggest risk in the world, but you still have to turn around and look that kid in the eye, and they're the ones that have to answer for a lot of it. So, like, I've always, like, even small things, like the first time my son called me a princess, like, I remember being like, wow, you look at me in such an adoring way. I have such a thing that I have to, live up to for this child. And he's 9 now, so he's like my best friend. We're so cool. We also fight horrendous.
What are you gonna do if one of them starts doing some of the things you did and going down that path?
I think about it all the time. My daddy actually called me the other day and laughed in my ear about what I was going to experience the older my kids get. I honestly think it's just going to be a lot of repetition. I think I'm just going to, like, hear my parents' voice in my head, and just like, yeah,
when
what the
you yell
heck?
at them, you walk out of that room, I'm like, fuck, I'm my dad.
God.
And I, like, fucking hate my dad, so when I walk out and I hear, like, I'm like, God damn it. I'm like,
I turned into him.
Fuck.
I used to think my stepdad my stepmom was the absolute worst. And now, like, Saturday mornings, I'll be like, all right, kids, if everybody helps clean, we'll get it done in 2 hours. Fuck, she used to say that all the time.
My dad used to say, pull your head out of your ass. And I say it, and I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, my gosh. Get your hands out of your pockets and act like you want to do something. That is over and over in my head, and I say that to my kids all the time.
And I try to take the route of, I don't want to be, that was something, too, that really fucked me up of, my dad and saying pretty much, I'll never be your friend. I'm never going to be
Oh,
your
yeah.
friend. I'm your dad. And I agree to a certain extent, but then there's a part where like, no, fuck that. I'm like, dude, my kids are my best friends.
Yeah,
I
literally.
love traveling with them.
Mm-hmm.
I love talking to them like they're older. I mean, I treat them that way, but I think that there's a certain point where I'm like choosing the good things my parents did, and then even some of the things to do differently of like, listen, I'm going to be mad as fuck at you, and I'm going to tell you I love you and good night, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to start the next day,
Breaking
trying to
those.
bring that out. And I hope, and then also as a dad, there's a lot of guys that I'm around that will look at me and go, yeah, good luck, your daughter, that'll be gone. My daughter doesn't even talk to me in teenage years, and they like that's like again that stereotype
Yeah,
of
yeah,
what
it's
it's
like
supposed to
normal.
be as a teenage daughter, and that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, fuck that. That's not normal. I'm
Mm-mm.
like, me and my daughter are always going to have a great, and we're going to work on this, and I'm going to fight for it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, no fucking way that's going to be. And I just fingers crossed, because mine turns 10 in February. And
Are you in like the preteen years already?
my
Because we
boy
are.
is 11 and a half.
Uh-huh.
And then my daughter is going to be 10 in February.
Does she already have that like teenage attitude though?
No, no, not yet.
She's a
but
sweet girl. She's
very sweet, but she's going through kind of like she's like a just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens. So I don't know. I always say that girl's got a lot of quit in her, and the fact that she's just kind of like she hits a brick wall. She's like, whatever, fuck
Oh
it.
well.
I'm like, no, work hard at this.
Yeah.
Like, get this. My boy's like, I got to be at school on time. He's all about getting straight A's. He's like my
Mhm.
OCD one a little bit, and
Mm.
Audrey wakes up with like scissors in her bed from making bracelets. I'm like, Audrey, I'm like, you psychopath. I'm like, pick up your shit. Like, stop being weird,
Yeah.
Audrey. Like, you're not like. And then like I open up her little bank. Like, she's got one of these little banks you slide money in,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, Dad, I can't get, we got it open, and I open the door. There's like a bunch of money in there, but then there's all these candy wrappers that she's just been feeding
Wait.
into there. I'm like, what is wrong with you, you weirdo? Like, stop being weird.
Look, I walked into the kitchen just yesterday and I said, "Hey, Garrison, that drawer in your room?" And he goes, "Yeah."
Oh, the hoarding drawer?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
I said, because I was looking for, I don't even know what it was. I think a TV remote, but I just was drawer, and I get to the top drawer, and it's like some halfy in like oatmeal cream pies, and there's like toasty crackers and like, oh my God, the freaking squished up Capri Sun things where he's just drank all that he could out of it and just stuffed it in there. But so I walk in the room and I'm like, "Hey, bud, the drawer?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "The top one in your room?" He said, "Yeah, Mom. I should clean it out right." I said, "Okay, cool. So let's not have that conversation again." Like, my kids are they're one step ahead of me. And so, and I don't mean that in like an I'm dumb kind of way, but they're constantly like assuming what I'm going to say and guessing it right. Like, we communicate really well, but it also makes us really knock noggins really hard, because I'll be like, "Hey, you're literally standing here showing me that you're competent, but you don't care to do the thing." Like, that's where I'm like you said, you kind of talk to them like they're a little grown. I'm that way. Like, I remember the first time I realized I was going to be one of those parents. My baby was in those jumper things, the Johnny jumper thing.
Oh yeah.
And he kept going side to side, and I kept standing him up and making him go up and down, and, "Hey, be careful, you're going to hit your head." And he knocked his little noggin and he cried. And I remember just automatically going, "I told you that was going to happen." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm a tough mom. I'm not gentle parenting."
See, and that's where I've always said I talk the same way I talk now. I mean, I talk around them.
Mm-hmm.
And neither of my kids would say a bad word to save their life, period. Because, I mean, but I talk to them as they're like any of us.
Yeah.
But that drawer, going back to that, I was in my boy's room, and he's at this age where we're separate households. They go to mom's 50% of the time, mine. And he's very, again, he has that dad, like, he just wants dad's approval.
Mm-hmm.
And we are best friends. He loves all of his time with me. His room is always pretty spotless, but he's getting to that age. He's a stinky boy, all that stuff. But, I'm up there and I'm like, all right, hey man, you're good. And you could tell he's kind of like, all right, yes, pass the test. And I'm getting ready to walk out, and you could just tell that I was getting ready to open that drawer.
Uh-oh.
And I kind of opened some other drawers just to see that he did everything else. And then I was like, and I was already kind of frustrated about something, and I opened that drawer, and he's like, "Dad, please just shut the drawer. I'll address it." And I'm like, fucking figure that drawer out, Luke, or I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. I'm like, it's like, well, I don't know what this remote goes to, but what if I find what it goes to? You know, oh, I have this cool container I got with a deck of cards one time, and I don't know, it could be cool for something, Dad. I'm like, you're a hoarder. I'm like, stop hoarding shit, dude.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. I know, but I don't know if I'll ever need this thing, you know. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And then there's just like, he made one of those things at school where it's like the oil and water, and there's like the glitter. Essentially, it's like a poor person's leg lamp or a lava
lamp,
you know,
yeah.
lava lamp. But he's like, that was a year ago, and it's in your drawer. I'm like, if it's tipped upside down, I'm like, if that shit spills, Luke, he goes, I know, you'll kill me. And I'm like, just get it figured out, man. And I walked away because I'm like, at the end of the day, if he contains it to a drawer, all right, it could be worse. It could
Yeah.
be his whole room, but yeah, the funds of the parenting.
Oh yeah.
Well, my kid was texting me yesterday so my sister lives with me and her son as well. So we've got a full house. There's a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And the laundry never ends. The bathroom's always dirty. You know, it's just like a very kooky, crazy household, right? Okay, so my little boy, I just bought him new pants. As a matter of fact, I've had to go twice because he's growing very quickly. So I just got all the new pants, and I picked up some cool hoodies, and I was excited. You know, you're going to love this because I bought the baggy pants before trying to be cool, and he doesn't like those, Mom. So had to go back, you know. So a whole thing, right? So I'm coming home with what I know he's going to be excited about. He doesn't give a shit. So he's like, yeah, all right, whatever. Put the pants away. You know, I'm just wearing clothes. Like that's, I don't really care. Well, the next day, those clothes are still laid out on the end of his bed whenever I wake him up in the morning. So I wake him up. Garrison, I asked you to do that yesterday, son, and you got damn chicken nuggets and french fries sitting on the bed beside you, and you just asleep with your PlayStation controller in your hand. It's Wednesday morning. What's happening here? Are you like, this is not a frat house, dude. There are rules in this house. What's going on? So he gets up. He's, oh, this, no, that. Oh, I don't want to do it. So I get to where I'm leaving, and I'm doing my bedroom check, you know, seeing what everything looks like, and I see those clothes. And I get a text after we've been gone about an hour from my sister. Does Garrison get his PlayStation? No, he certainly does not, because he was being mean to me while he needed to be doing his chores. Okay, does Garrison get his iPad? Yeah, hand that boy his iPad. I sent a text. Did you finish your chores? Yes, ma'am. How about them clothes on the end of your bed? Mama. Drop in on the Alexa. Garrison. Yes, ma'am. You got them
Alexa
clothes
drop
hung
in.
up. Like, I'm literally like, I'm not helping you with anything until you verify that you have hung these clothes up. You cannot have any form of communication or play until you have hung them damn clothes up. I guarantee you they will still be sitting right there when I get home. Guaranteed.
So going off of parenting and all that stuff, I mean, tell us about the music, because honestly, when Ryan shared your stuff, I'm like, I mean, I didn't know you from Adam, like as far as who you were and stuff. So how did that come about, and when did that really begin for you? Was it the pre-17 where you were into music a lot?
Oh God,
or was it...
yeah. So I came from a gospel family. So my dad's had a band. They were called the Walker. My dad had a band. Him and his brothers. They were called the Walker Brothers, and they did bluegrass gospel music. And they toured to like churches and little Christian music festivals, bluegrass festivals, stuff like that. So I grew up in it, but I never really put two and two together. Like I never put the music industry in with what my dad did. You know what I'm saying? Like the two didn't really coincide to me. It just was like an activity we once did with my dad, kind of like he used to race and now he doesn't, you know, it's like, it was just one of Dad's hobbies. But, they all were instrumentalists and harmonizers, and I grew up just sitting in on those practices, and like, there's 7 of these men with these gorgeous, you know, different octaves, and their harmonies are wild, and they've got a big bass in there, and they got a banjo, and they got a dobro, and they got a couple of acoustics, and my daddy's on the mandolin, and like it was a pretty awe-inspiring thing to be in the middle of, and I was in the middle of a lot of different things like that. So by the time I was 11, I loved it. Like sitting in at this thing they called the picking circle. It was at a barn. It was way far away, and I had to ask my daddy to drive me there. It was like an hour away. And used to, if my daddy wouldn't take me, I'd call my Uncle Larry, who was across the road, and I'd be like, can you take me over to the barn? And I never knew this until I was older, but I used to sit in that picking circle with Allison Krauss. Never knew that. Never knew that until I was older. My uncle just mentioned it one day. He was like, my Uncle Larry, he was like, you know, Allison Krauss used to go to that picking barn with us all the time. And I was like, no shit.
Wow.
I did not know that. You know, I just like to sit around and watch everybody play instruments. I mean, there's no telling how many people, the greats that I've seen and have no idea, you know, because I loved being in it. And so when I grew up, you know, my daddy was so like corporate at that point. He had, you know, done a really good job with a really good job that really just kept our family going, and he had no reason to, you know, pursue those hobbies and stuff like that. You know, he boats and hunts and whatever. And so I never saw it as a dream. I never thought it was like an option. But going through school, I went to chorus and I did all state chorus, and I had like the national solos, and I had like I would win a talent show, or, you know, I was doing stuff like that. I just never once like put two and two together. I never was like, hey girl, you can go achieve a dream. You know what I'm saying? And so once I got out of high school and got married and started my life as a banker, like I was wholeheartedly dead set on that was my life. And then the bottom fell and I got a divorce, which, praise the Lord, hallelujah. And
This is how old?
I was, when did I get a divorce?
21.
21, 22.
right?
I love that he's just
Stalker?
he's got
Fuck
the
is wrong with
he's
you?
got the facts
I
over
gotta do the
here.
research,
Like,
you know? I gotta do the
He
research.
Let
does
me
all the
see.
research, and I
let me
started
go
to
back
try
to
to
my
do it.
notes here. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
actually,
What's
you
your
got
social
pregnant
security
in.
number? If you can get if you can get 6 numbers right.
He could probably take the last 4.
God. When we started this podcast, and again, he did such a great job at looking up all this information. Even I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, dude, there's way too much shit going on.
Yeah.
And Ryan would print off like these fact sheets or just
Oh,
like
yeah.
random shit, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm like, I just want to come in and kind of just see where it goes. And,
Yeah.
And I think it's still good to have the facts, but there was a couple times that you made a comment. Somebody's like, damn, you did your research, you know? And also I was like, I don't want to be sitting here in front and be like, so when you were 21 and got divorced, he just remembers all that shit.
Who initiated the divorce?
Yeah.
Back
Yeah,
in
who filed?
2010?
Oh, I can tell you who filed.
Actually, I know that
I looked
already.
it up, court records.
I have your divorce records here. Do you need
Yeah.
copies?
And the court stated
Irreconcilable differences.
I got mine during COVID.
You got your
Mine
divorce during
started
COVID?
pre-COVID and went in through COVID.
Okay.
That was wild.
So I think the
We were quarantined at one
demise
point
of
together.
my marriage was quarantine. I think that was the demise of my marriage. I think I could have kept going had I not had to participate on a day-to-day basis 2 weeks at a time with the man that I was married to. Like, it made me
Because you worked
realize, like,
together.
so because of quarantine, I was home with kids 2 weeks at a time every 2 weeks because I worked at a bank.
Okay.
So we were 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So when I was home for 2 weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, this loving, doting father is going to be so glad that his home
Because
or his
yours was
children are
during
home.
you got divorced during or right after.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. I feel like that was the like beginning of the demise because I had no freaking clue that I was in this like pretend marriage. I had no idea. Like, I really thought I got married at 19 though. So like, who the fuck knows
Right.
what they're doing, you know? But I was just living in La La Land, and then quarantine came, and my husband's working across the road, and we have moved here to be closer to his job, and we're in this life because it's what he wanted. And I'm like, hey honey, lunch is ready, and I'm getting like scolded for bothering him, you know what I mean? And like, I just very quickly realized I was raising kids by myself, and I was like, well shit, I guess I might as well just get a damn divorce. I don't really like this anyway. So I got out and I spiraled for a very long time in my self-worth and with alcohol and with just honestly how I felt about myself was like very slowly seeping into what I was doing with my work and with my social media, you know? And so there was a long time after getting into social media right after my divorce that I was really just jaded and so like, okay, just put on a show and like you've figured out the algorithm already, so just keep doing what you're supposed to do on social media and like make things look okay and you'll be fine. But look, this is a PSA, a warning. Don't start that shit because, oh my God, like getting out of this place where you're like, okay, I have to open the curtain in order for anybody to actually know like what I'm doing or how I'm feeling truly. It's like, yeah, it's horrible because then you go home and you're like, oh, everybody thinks I'm great and I'm really falling apart, and like I don't know why I keep choosing these horrible relationships, and I don't know why I keep going through all this drama and all this toxicity. Like, oh, woe is me, it's everyone else's fault, boo hoo. And
But then you look at everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's that Facebook lifestyle
Yeah.
of one day a picture of how great their life is, and they got divorced 2 weeks later.
Literally.
Or you see it all falling apart, and it's crazy where you're like, it's so, but we all feel pressured to do this fake and make it look like we're so great, and it's a trap.
It is. It's a trap, and it gets ugly. But I'll tell you what. Oh wait, "Ugly" is my new single that's coming out. Ha ha.
Well, we've got a plug there.
I mean, we keep going rabbit trails.
I know,
no,
right?
and I'll
right?
do this.
Still want to get to music.
We want to get to the music.
Yeah,
side.
no, okay, so look, okay, if we want to get to the music, then coming out of my divorce, fresh out of my divorce, I was just brought this like random invitation to this dude's studio. He was like, hey, we went to high school together. He messaged me on Facebook. He was like, hey, I remember you doing like all state and nationals, so do you want to come be on a song? And I was like, I'm divorced. What else do I have to do? Like, I'll go sit in the studio, I guess. And so I got on this track. It was called No Remorse by Rosso. And I was on the track, and I was like able to write my own little verse and like do my own little cadence. And that was the first time I was creating on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I went home and I was like going through all these poems that I had written just during these times of like sadness, like these little personal poems that I'd written for myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could be a songwriter. That's awesome. So I had like years and years of poems ready to be turned into songs when I actually started songwriting. So it's been a very big self-discovery journey.
So that was post-divorce though?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. That
you
was
were born...
So 2019.
Okay.
You should know that.
Yeah, no, I should. I have to look back my notes.
That was when I put out Fall for the Wrong One. Was 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you were born and raised, and I love the Southern twang,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and just listening to you is is that wrong? I mean,
No, I love it.
no offense to anyone in the room. I love the Southern twang. I like
we
listening
get it
to
all
the
the time.
voice.
Where are you actually from? Where are you born and raised?
So like Eastern North Carolina, like close to Wilmington, close to the beach.
Because like a bunch of my relatives are like Southern Missouri, and they have that twang, and
Yeah.
then so does like Brian.
Yeah.
When Uncle Co, our buddy from North Carolina, came, and we were over at Ducks, one of the girls working behind the bar was like, "Your accent," she's like, "It's hard to understand." I'm like, "I'll translate."
Yeah.
I'll translate as he talks, but I'm like, it's not that different. But some people up here,
Yeah.
it's like, you have such an accent, where she's probably like, you guys' accent's fucked up.
No, we were in Salt Lake City not too long ago, and people like, oh my God, the whole day people were like, you guys are from Texas? And we were just kept being like, no. And it was weird. Like the third time it was our waiter, and I think I said to him, like, that's actually so weird that you just said that, because you're the third person today that
Because
has
from
asked us
Utah,
that.
Texas is the only south. I mean,
Yeah,
Carolinas are just east.
True.
I usually get like Texas, Alabama, Kentucky. But
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna
just,
say Alabama.
yeah, I'm just an East Coast girly, which I don't necessarily know what our accent's supposed to sound like, but I do know that I've grown up being conditioned to understand that the accent's cuter, so I think that's why it's so much thicker. Because you'll have people that come from the same road as me that don't sound like me at all, And I honestly just think it's like I come from super Southern roots with the, the bluegrass and the gospel, and then they're just like, oh, you're so stinking cute, you cute little country girl. Listen to that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I didn't go
You
that
just-
far.
you
I
just
didn't-
grow up.
I was just I don't know. I was just
well,
laughing
no.
at you.
I mean, like when I was little, I remember being young and talking. We'd go visit family in Florida, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, she's so Southern, it's so cute." So I honestly think I conditioned myself to be like a little more Southern over the years, because not everybody's as Southern as me where I'm at, and I'm not like yeehaw Southern,
No,
I'm
but even like your son, yes, ma'am, and
Yeah.
and stuff
Oh, yeah.
like that, and mama, and those types of
Yeah.
terminology.
They eat him up in the comments on TikTok when he says mama.
Yeah.
'Cause he's like, mama. He doesn't say mama. He like draws out the mama, like he's tired of me or something. Like he's already over it,
So fast forwarding, right? And in North Carolina, you start making some trips to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Start getting used to the scene there, doing some writers rounds and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And then what eventually was like, we're packing up. We need to go there permanently.
Okay, so we moved over to Nashville in January of. When did I buy my house? What year are we in
Ryan?
right now? Yeah, when did I buy my house, Ryan? What was the tax
I
value?
missed that cue. I mean, I'm sorry.
Help her out.
Well, county records show.
If you actually whip that out, I would be a little bit weirded out.
She's like, all
I'm
right.
not gonna lie. Yeah, I would be like, Colin,
Nice to
did
see
you
you
bet
guys.
this
We are
at
not
all?
staying in Peoria, Illinois tonight.
Are we sure we're going home from here? Okay, so I bought my house in 2023 in North Carolina. So I still have my home in North Carolina where we're being very normal, raising children that go to public school. We're trying to be very normal. I say that because y'all, I'm so scared I'm gonna raise some preppy ass, spoiled ass youngins. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm also, which I probably should not say this, but there's a Christian school that is like notorious near us for their kids just coming out cokeheads. Like,
Austin went to
I
Christian
went to
school.
a Christian school.
did you come out a cokehead or
No,
you don't
but
have to answer that?
No, I'll give you. No, I've never done drugs ever.
That's good.
But yeah, we lived a very maybe different
Yes.
life. But
We
so
did.
I was a spoiled rich kid, I guess you will. And I went to a Christian school till 8th grade, and then I went to a public school
Okay.
through high school. But it was a farm school.
Okay.
Still did like Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yeah.
It's still a very good school. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But much bigger. Because I had a class of about 50 kids at the Christian school, so
Okay.
20 some boys, 20 some, 30 some girls.
Yeah.
And so then after I went to a public school, which one would think, oh, now Austin goes to this public school, blah blah blah. Oh, I went back to a party in high school, and it was still to this day one of the worst parties when I came back, because it's just a bunch of rich kids with too much money to do shit with, and drugs and
Yeah.
all the shit. I'm like, where are your
Exactly.
parents?
Yeah.
And I'm like the same age. I'm like, what the fuck
Yeah,
is
where are
going
your
on?
parents?
And
Yeah.
I was just, because I'm like, we never have had a party like this in Metamora.
Uh-huh.
But again, you had just a bunch of farm kids and people that didn't have that money to do stuff with, and it can be very horrible, because just because you send your kids to a Christian school
Right.
they're not going to parent them for you.
Yeah, no, and not to mention, you literally don't know if you're doing the right thing either way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like your kids could turn out however the hell they could turn out. And I'm like, I live in fear because I'm a helicopter mom, so I'm constantly like, what could I touch and move that way that like it could be better for my child, you know? I want to fix everything. I don't want there to be issues. We're really trying to work on that because I know that's not a good mommy quality. Because my kids fall apart when they get to me. Like they get to me and they're like, oh, okay, we can have all of our vulnerable emotions and you'll just be kind to us. And I'm like, Mama needs a break too, guys. But no, I don't think that there's like I don't think there's a way to know if there's a mistake that you're making as a parent whenever you do one thing or the other. But I moved and bought the house that I bought specifically for the school that I'm sending my kids to, because my brother was already at that school and he was having some issues, and they were like head on with the guidance counselors, you know, having meetings weekly. They were just a really hands-on school, you know. And so we moved over there, and we've been relatively happy with it. I've considered the private school thing, but it just is like, my kid is such a loudmouth, my boy. He's so like whatever I think is going to be funny and entertaining, even if it's like off the wall, and I really should not have said that, you know, so he gets himself into
That'll be
some
normal at a
trouble.
public school for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy is I was at a private school, and yet I was a troublemaker,
Oh.
because I was a rambunctious, teenage kid that said dumb shit.
Yeah.
Thought
yeah.
it'd be funny to see who could say penis the loudest in class, and like
yeah.
like you just did dumb shit. I wasn't a bad kid.
Yeah, that's how my kid
but
is.
out of 20 some boys, I was considered a bad kid. And you also don't get to choose who you hang out with. I just hung out with who was on the basketball team
Who
or
was
who
in your
did this and
class.
all that stuff. But then when I went to this bigger school and I have 500 kids to choose from, or even bigger than that of other classes and stuff, I never got in trouble one time.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a boy. I was, you know, and so I don't know. That's how I felt at a Christian school. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough thing.
Well, kids are just tough in general, especially these days because they're all overstimulated with iPads, and I don't know how
You
to
just gotta
handle
beat
that.
them more, you know. Just
Yeah,
really,
just- Oh my God, let me tell you all
with the
this story.
iPad, maybe no. I'm
Y'all
just
are
kidding.
gonna
Don't
y'all are
condone
gonna
that, but-
love this story. Okay, so my kid has his football pads on. He's getting ready for football practice, and I'm talking he's padded out. He can get tackled right now, and he will be okay.
Oh,
and he
absolutely.
smarts off at me. Oh, it was like heaven had rained down.
Oklahoma drill
I
with
said,
a
"Are
kid.
you kidding me? Oh my heavens! I was wearing a house slipper. I was wearing I'm talking robe tied up, coffee in my hand, and that mouth. And I slung that slipper off of my shoe or off of my foot, and I just went to waylaying on them shoulder pads,
Oh yeah.
getting him. And the whole time he was just scared. You know, he was just like, "What the heck, Mom?" Like he's not feeling anything. He's like, "What the heck?" And I was like, "Now, I only did that because you got them pads on. And I love you. Quit smarting off of me."
I mean, I've literally never even paddled my kids. I have a paddle at my house that I earned.
Does it
I
say
earned-
attitude adjuster on it?
No, it says never smack a child in the face. Nature provides a better place.
Okay,
And it's a full
I'm
blown
down with
wooden
that.
wooden
I'm pretty
paddle,
down with
and I mean,
that.
I got my ass beat, and my
Yeah.
mom was the worst because my mom wouldn't hold back. Women don't know their own strength because you kind of feel like you're like Babe Ruth in the bottom of the night. You kind of gotta go through
Well,
the ball.
and you're getting
and
it
and
out.
as a male, you kind of like, I don't really want to hurt him.
Yeah.
Well, I'd come down 9 pairs of underwear, butt padded up. My mom's like, bare ass,
Yep.
no chance, swing through, and he had to like lay over the bars the whole night. It was fucked up, really, at the end of the day. But my kids fear me, and I've never beat their ass at all with that.
So they
paddle.
respect you then.
Yeah, I just leave it kind of sitting up there. They see it all the time, but
Fear is an emotion. Fear is an
Right,
emotion.
right.
I'm okay with emotions.
I got my ass beat, and I really can't. I mean, I can't. I was scared of my parents, but I still did some fucked up shit.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, I don't know what I can't tell you where my parents went wrong or if they did, but something was clicked in the wrong
There's a
direction
couple
in my head
wires
when I was
crossed.
a teenager. Something was definitely crossed up.
So what I've come to realize too. So I have 2 older kids and 2 younger kids that are about the same age as his. My older 2 kids, 21, 22. My 22-year-old is married, has a kid of her own. So I am a grandfather. I know I look
Ooh,
like I'm
congrats.
no more than 21. Right?
Right.
No more than 21.
Yep.
But, I think we all grow up and go through traumas, go through events, life things happen, and you always tell yourself, I'm going to do this different when I'm a parent. And so now that my daughter, my Joelle is a parent herself, I can see where she is trying to do, little things that bothered her, from my parenting, and she's doing. I mean, she is an incredible mother, and I have 1,000% respect for what she is doing and
Oh my
how
goodness,
she's
that's
handling
awesome.
life. But and with her son, my grandson. But you can see those things where she made a mental effort at some point, a conscious decision at some point that she wanted to do things this way,
Yeah.
and it's awesome to watch.
Yeah, my mom and I talk a lot about like our parenting styles, and she's really awesome because she takes everything with so much grace. So I mean, I've literally been able to be like, here's what I'm doing because of what you did. Like I'm doing this differently, and I'm able to say that to her because we broke it down one day, and it was such a cool moment for us to like really bond over like realizing our parenting styles, But we broke it down pretty much to like she wasn't raised by her mother; she was raised by her grandmother, and her mother was a 17-year-old mom, and so like there was so much my mom was trying to keep me away from that she kind of did a little more hovering with like personal stuff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like really being involved in the like she wouldn't go through my phone, but then I'd get in trouble and she would go through my phone. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
then she'd be super involved and she'd know who I was friends with and not friends with, and then she like would be giving me advice, this and that, and like that was great. And there's some things that I hear that are awesome that I take into my parenting, and there's some things that gave me anxiety. So like we were able to break that down and like look at it in a way that's like, okay, there was Rose, my great grandmother who raised my mom, and then there was Libby, who was her biological mother. Mom did things a little different than the two of them, and then I'm doing things a little differently
Right,
than Mom.
absolutely.
And it's like the parenting style is just going to keep getting better if we do good, if we pursue good. That's our whole like mantra this year, is just as long as you're doing good, we're
I think
good.
also it being open and honest there, because there was a lot of things about my parents that were full blown just lies
Me
that really
too.
didn't come out till I was 30. Of their relationship was never good at all. Going back to removing the curtain and even being transparent is very hard with your kids to be fully transparent. But sometimes just say, "Hey, I'm not okay sometimes, and that's okay. Like that's okay
Hmm.
because we're gonna get through this."
The
You
lies
know?
he's talking about though are like the tooth fairy,
Uh,
the leprechaun for
Right,
St.
right.
Patrick's
right.
Day.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Not heavy shit.
it is crazy because feeling like man, we lived this fake life for however long to
Hmm.
put on a happy face, and again, they did their best to raise us, and we turned out okay, but
Yeah.
um. But going back down the rabbit trail, because we are
Up
about
up
at
the rabbit
50
trail.
minutes. What do you want to see over this next year? What's your goals for music? Like what do you want to accomplish, or where do you think you'd be like, man, you know what? We worked hard, and this is everything I'd want for this year.
So I have an album that we're working on, that we've been working on, that should be coming out. I mean, we don't have a date for it because we're just kind of trying to feel it and, like know when it feels like the time is right. But my just like greatest wish, the only thing that I think that the universe could provide for me this year, honestly, is just some kind of affirmation that people are hearing what I'm writing and it's making them feel like they got somebody sitting right there with them when they're experiencing those emotions. You know what I mean? Because I've said a million times, my mother was such an encouraging woman when I was growing up, and I went through horrible things. I mean, starting at a very young age, I went through things that no child should have to process, and I was surrounded by encouragement. But there are people living today, right this very second, with no encouragement around them, and they've never heard one person say, "Hey, there's a light at the end of this tunnel." They've never heard one person say, "Hey, girl, you're stronger if you leave that abusive man." You know what I mean? And I want to be in a song, just doing what I do, right? And it reach somebody in a monumental way. And I just want that to be the reason why I wrote the song. You know what I'm saying?
No, for
Like once there's an
100%.
affirmation where there's a group of women that's like, "Hey, we're doing this with you. Thank you so much." That's all I want this year.
Right, and I think the strongest word that goes along with that is something you said within the first 5 minutes of sitting down with you, and that vulnerability that you show. Your life is out there, and if
Yeah.
you look at your TikTok, your Instagram, your Facebook, I mean, your life is out there,
Mhm.
and you show the good, the bad, the ugly, the things that you've been through, and I think that is something for to be commended of you that you're helping those types of women that are out there possibly going through those types of situations, and that there is another side and that there is hope. You've been there, and you've come out on the other side.
Yeah, I'm in the I'm in the like positivity era, but there was a long time where I was not in that. You know what I mean? Where I was just allowing myself to believe that the things that were going wrong around me were simply because that was how life was going to go, and I understand that feeling wholeheartedly in a lot of my writing, even in my early stuff. If there's anybody listening that hasn't heard my EP Hope and Heartbreak is probably the rawest I'll ever get.
Hmm.
I'll never write that way again, because that was write it because you felt it and leave it and don't let anybody touch it. Like, I'm the writer on all those songs, so I'll probably never write like that again. But there's so much vulnerability and just being like, all right, this is how I feel, and it's dark and it sucks. And like, I had people telling me like, wow, why don't you just write something happy, when we were working on the first EP,
Yeah, yeah.
and like, and now we've got this album that's coming out that I feel like it's so true to me and raw with like just wishing you could fucking fix things. You know what I mean? Like, you ever just been sitting and wishing like, damn, my brain's all kinds of scrambled. I don't want to feel this way. Like, why can't I get out of this darkness? I'm disappointed, or I thought life was going to feel a little different or whatever. Like, why can't I get out of this? I write from that perspective, but then I've written with these other writers who I'm able to walk in with a song that's written and say, "Hey, this is super dark. Now let's put a light at the end of the tunnel." And one of my favorite things we've done, we have a song coming out called 17. We wrote that song and then we got to the end of it and we were like, guys, the bridge literally has to say, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself," because this
Mm.
is a suicide note. Like,
Oh
Hmm.
this is
God.
not good. But it really just ended up being like, okay, we're actually with Lex. Lex wrote
Yeah.
on this song with us. She sat down, it was her idea. She's like, I want to come from a place of like, man, I'm trying my hardest. I'm not going to give up. But I had all these dreams when I was 17, and like nothing's going the way that I thought it was going to go. And by the time we got done, that was me, Lex, Mary, Sarah, Seth, Michael, Colin sat in on that right. Caden Jones was on that right. And we got to the end of it, and it was this beautiful, like, really sad thing. And we were like, shit, this isn't going to help anybody if we don't put a light at the end of the tunnel, you know? So that was our running joke, was like, all right, we have to say it. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself. And the line ended up being, don't worry about me. I won't give up on 17. So that one line has been really like ringing in my head for this album. So the album might even be called 17. Who knows?
Because everybody goes through, whether you're 30, whether you're 17, whether you're 21, and you look back on what I thought when I was 30 going through something, and you're like, God, I was such a bitch. Like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Look back at what I thought when I was 18, if my world is falling apart. What about your world is falling apart?
Absolutely.
And then I look back, I'm like, gosh, I was such an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and I think every time you can look back and go, if you just get through this, it's really not as bad as what you see when you're in it. But at that time, I thought, at 18, I thought my whole world was collapsing.
Yeah.
My whole world. And then again, I look at what was going wrong. I'm like, it was nothing. Compared to what I have gone through later on, it was nothing at 18.
Honestly. And time is so humbling in that way, because then you look back on something a few years later and you're like, oh, the drama.
The drama.
Why did I even do that?
Well, what you kind of said, though, plays a part into a segment that I like to ask. And Surfside is our sponsor for 2025. They're great people. So we're kind of doing the Surfside segment. And I like to ask something where you're on a plane and you're headed somewhere beautiful, and plane's going down, you've got a parachute, you've got just a few minutes, and you have access on this plane. I don't know why, but you brought every album known to man on this plane. You can only grab 5. What 5 albums are you going to listen to for the rest of your life on this deserted island?
For the rest of my life?
You'll never listen to anything else other than these 5.
Okay, let's be really careful with this here. All right, we gotta go our American Heartbreak, Zach Bryan, because nothing after that. I haven't listened to a single Zach Bryan song since that album.
You're not Team Bree?
Oh, I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I don't care either way. But
right. Zach Bryan.
I will say this now. Y'all ought to have known, everybody on earth ought to have known, that the man was going to be a lunatic. He writes songs that literally, he has songs about, like,
that's the
beating
viral
the shit out
moment of
a
this
man.
podcast.
You mean to tell me Morgan Wallen's got? You mean to tell me Zach Bryan's got issues? They write.
Yeah, like, I mean, hello, the songs are literally saying the issues. It's a written list. Go to the lyrics. It's an explanation of how he feels in here. Nobody should be jumping into that with dreams of having children. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
You're not going to build a home with a man who's
You're telling me the drug dealer
songs.
wasn't a straight shooter?
Just right. Okay,
So
but
Zach
American
Bryan,
Heartbreak. Plane's going down. We got American Heartbreak. I don't know that I can do this that fast. I don't know if this is on an album, but Megan Maroney has oh my God. Jesus, I'm jealous. You know that? Oh man, I don't know if that's on an album, but that's going down with
So you're going to take a Megan Maroney album.
I'm
Maroney,
taking
okay.
Megan. No, that's Mackenzie Carpenter. I'm so sorry. That's Mackenzie Carpenter. Jesus, I'm jealous. Okay.
I take Megan
Maroney.
though.
Am I okay?
What is it?
Am I okay?
Okay.
Yeah, Megan Maroney.
Yep.
You know that album?
Mhm.
Okay, that one has
So
to
you got
go.
3.
Mm.
We're hovering the water at this point.
Okay, we're dying with some Leonard Skinner
Okay.
Okay.
and going completely down with Fireman by Lil Wayne.
Wow.
There we go. Add
Okay.
some variety. I love it. Well,
That's it. Yeah.
that's-
Some good like while the plane's going down, we're thinking about it, you know, we're a little sad, we're reflecting, and then we get to the bottom, we got some Leonard Skinner, you know, things are really revving up, we're actually ready for the fall now, and then we just, I'm the fireman, boom.
and see, that's the thing, is it tells a lot about a person
Yeah.
of like what, I mean, there are albums that you haven't listened to. Some of those albums you probably haven't listened to in a while.
Oh my
but
God, yeah.
They're going to stand the test of time. And also there's albums that we've talked about.
Mhm.
I think him and I just did a podcast between us talking about just ones that mean so much to us. That I remember being a freshman in high school listening to blank.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I can listen to this album and know what I was going through And I think it means a lot to people when you're like, yeah, I haven't listened to this album in 10 years, but I'm telling you right now, if I have to pick 5, it's going to be one of them because it stands the test of time, or it means something to me.
It's a period of your life, right? So, it's a certain vehicle that you were listening to, or it's a relationship, or it's,
Yeah.
whatever it is, there's a period of life that kind of attaches to that.
Yeah, I remember being in maybe like the 4th grade, and I had my little iPod with the little ring thing. It wasn't an iPod Touch. What were those? You know what I'm talking about? Shuffle, isn't that what it was called?
What was it? Where were those? iPods. Yeah, just iPod.
It was like an iPod Shuffle or iPod
there you
Mini
go.
or
There you
something
go.
like that.
Something
Anyway,
like that.
I had that little guy, and I had been illegally downloading the music off the LimeWire, back in those
wrecked
days.
a couple computers with that.
Yeah, a few actually. Yeah, and my stepdad was a computer guy, so he was always very upset with me over those situations. But yeah, downloading the music and Simple Man sitting in my treehouse, just headphones on, away from the world in my little backyard treehouse.
When I had my
Simple
first
Man.
iPod, I was more into the rock of like Taking Back Sunday, going through kind of not the emo phase, but
We
I
all
listened to
had
a lot
that.
of that. Where I'm trying to think of the other one, Motion City Soundtrack. I used to listen to and went through
Asking
kind of that phase.
Alexandria, were you ever?
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, and Blood on the Dance Floor.
Yeah.
Did you ever get there?
Yeah,
Ooh, man.
that, and then I went through that. I was going through at the same time of like Motionless and White now, but like Atreyu back then, and like really hard rock. I loved that shit.
So I kind of want to end on. So Austin and I have been doing this podcast since October timeframe.
Yep.
We've learned a lot in a very short amount of time, but I know that you are, like I said at the very beginning, no stranger to podcasts. You've got some podcasts out there that you have been a part of. You've got some stuff in the hopper for 2025. Can you share any of what you enjoy about podcasts, watching podcasts, being on podcasts, what is to come, anything along those lines?
So I've been in podcasting. I actually did my own podcast for 2 years. It was called Toxic Talk, and it was an era that we are glad to be rid of. But I was the top to bottom dude on that podcast. Like, I did all the editing, I did all the filming, I did all the posting, all the metadata, all of that stuff, all the ads, the sponsorships, the packets, the graphics, all the shit. So that being said,
And there is a lot. We've
there's
learned that
so
very quickly.
much. Yeah, it's like, and if you don't have hands on it daily, it just runs away from you. If there's not just somebody like doing some editing or running through and at least downloading some files or something, like if there's not more than one person doing those things, it's just a huge job. So I kind of stepped back and started going with a producer friend of mine. His name's Matt McElwain in Nashville. And we started filming our podcast with him. So we would like rent an Airbnb and film a podcast for a couple of days and post it. And we started doing these little like episodes where we'd have a videographer come and like get the whole house of people who were doing interviews and stuff. And like we had Trey Lewis in one of those episodes where we're all in the house just drinking and doing these podcast interviews or whatever. I mean, we've really played with how much fun you can have with podcasts because they can be mobile. We've had a to-go podcast where we just popped up wherever. I've been on podcasts in Nashville that are the live podcast rounds, like the writers rounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love those. Sitting at the table and just being able to like chop shit, while people are singing or not, or before and after people are singing, like you're just up there just talking at a round where it's supposed to be all professional and cool and you're just up there bullshitting. I love podcasts because you can literally do whatever you want.
Right.
Like I've admitted some things on episodes that are now deleted that will never see the light of day ever again, but you can do that on a podcast.
When we first started ours, we kind of felt like it was like live.
Oh,
So
God,
now-
Careful
yeah.
what you say.
Yeah, so now, you could just be like, fuck, shit, piss. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, cut that. Hey, edit that. Don't put it on. It'll never see the light of day. And like all that shit.
Yeah.
And we were once we learned that, it became very nice. Then it became much more free. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
some that have had some very wild shit on there. And then you're just like, oh my God, I hope this never
Well,
sees. But again, it all gets
Taylor
cut out.
Holder and Little Z were on. And
Yeah,
Sevy.
and they're entertaining.
oh, yeah.
To say the least. Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, guests was one of my favorite things. Like, I have met some of the coolest people. Like, we had Cody Ash, Jelly Roll's drummer.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
him on, and that was my first time meeting him. And like, now we're good buddies.
He's supposed to be. He's supposed to be on
Workshop,
this.
Yeah,
I think
he's
we're gonna
so
go
great.
to Nashville to do a mobile one to do.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so Cody, oh my God, he is just funny as
He
hell.
gave me my 3rd tattoo.
Did he?
I only got 3 of them. Yeah. He's never given a tattoo either.
I'm jealous.
Right here.
And he's never given a tattoo, and he did that?
Are you going to show it or no?
I mean, no.
You're best friends with him because you get on a podcast and you can
Just
say
talk.
and do what you want. So, like,
Yeah.
there was this clip with Cody that went viral. I think we had like 4 hours of Cody Ash podcasting.
Wow.
Like, eventually at one point I was like, my mouth is so dry. I'm about to die. Are we about to get some food? What's up? Can we stop? Like, Cody, can you stop talking for a minute? But I mean, we did like this. We just kept going on the tangents, He's just a funny bunny.
And that's where I think it's interesting doing this because, again, when we started it, you learn habits of yourself. That I'm like, I didn't know I did that shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I fucking hate listening to myself. I hate watching it, the whole 9 yards. And then you're doing all that work you talked about. And you're like, wow, what are we doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a grind. But then we'll be out somewhere and somebody's like, oh my God, I love listening to that. And it's like a person that they're like, I would never think this is. And this person loves it,
Yeah.
And also the people you meet you and I have never met. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how vulgar somebody could be. I don't know which direction it could go. I don't know how polite or like how PG versus the next level, and you don't want to take it. And then there's some of ours that kind of just start off here, and then they're just nosedive to just a full blown like, oh my God, this has gotten out of control.
Yeah, I won't say who with, but we did an episode where you could tell we were both just trying so hard to enjoy ourselves, and it was like we're not vibing. And it was a good episode. Like, all in all, the artist did great. We did a great job. I mean, it was a good episode, but her manager ended up calling and being like, let's pull that. Let's just not.
Yeah.
And we honestly were like, respectfully, okay.
Well, on the promoter side for us, I mean, there's shit that Lily Rose might talk about. There's some things that we as friends, I mean, me and Lily could talk about all sorts of weird shit.
Right.
Okay. But I don't ever want it to get back to an agent and then be like, what the fuck is this, guys? Because again, if we were just a completely independent party that didn't have a festival, didn't have the music venue, oh my God, we could do whatever we wanted.
Right,
but when an agent's going, what the fuck?
Yeah, why'd you say that?
Yeah. So do you still talk to Cody?
Yeah.
Ever?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We should try to call him.
Yeah. His sister actually, he gave me his sister's number one time and randomly was just like, hey, FaceTime my sister. She's going to love you. And now we're friends on Snapchat.
Watch, she's not going to answer.
My phone's
God
over there.
damn it. Oh, we're going to do a double back. Well, he must have it on like do not disturb or he's.
He probably does.
Yep. God damn it, motherfucker. Are you shitting me? You pick up for her and you didn't even pick up?
No, I'm literally about to. Well, I thought you were telling me to pick up if she was calling. But I'm literally about to hop on the phone with the lawyer, so let me call y'all back.
Love you, bye.
God damn it.
He said, I thought you were calling me to tell me to pick up for her.
He's in bed.
That is so funny.
Cody's a perfect example of just somebody that's so genuine in
Yeah.
a world that there's some sketchy, bad people that you meet and later on like they're just not a good person. And
Yeah, and it's so scary too because like I'm the kind I want to see good in everybody, so I don't want to see that anybody could be a snake in the grass. I don't want to even consider it. So like I'm always in my prayers, y'all. I'm telling you, like I said, I'm scared most of the time. That's how I operate. I operate out of fear. That's why I'm successful. I'm just always scared. But I literally will pray like, Lord, just give me the discernment. Let me see it.
we appreciate you coming all the way here, your team, and you
I'm
guys
so glad
doing
you
this.
guys had
This is
me.
so much fun. I hope you
Yeah,
enjoyed
no,
it.
I want to thank Colin too, your manager, for I met Colin in Nashville when I was down there for Butt Rock Night, and we're at Red
Yeah.
Door, started chit chatting and connected there.
It's never surprising to me whenever he connects with people and knows people. Like, it's actually insane to me sometimes that we can be so far from Nashville, so
Yeah.
far from home, and he like, or he'll be in the airport and he'll be like, oh, so and so, like, you know, I've been following this guy for a while, and he's on the same plane as me, and I'm like, how does life happen to you in that way? Because life doesn't happen to me in that way.
For the most part, I think it's crazy how I know you and you know this whole group of people in one way or another, or you're trying to get in a venue and I happen to know somebody. And again, the networking and how life works
my
and that
God,
is crazy.
networking
And
is ridiculous.
just my list that I've gained over the years of when we write out who we're going to do an interview with, it's so crazy long. And I just, from over the years of knowing different people and having those friendships that are, I don't know, you just know they're going to last for, a long time.
Yeah, I do enjoy whenever I actually get that feeling of like, oh, this is a good one. Like Danny Warsnop is a good example. We got him on our show, and I had been like thinking I was going to meet this guy that I just doted over when I was in middle school, like, oh my God, fangirl. But he ended up being so normal, you know what I mean? And just like us, and funny and fun. And we ended that podcast, same deal, just a long friendship, you know? I think there's a lot to be said too about sitting here in front of the camera and like you've already gone in your head being like, all right, do a good job, like be entertaining, you know, speak well, whatever. So then whenever you get asked questions, you answer with a whole lot more talking than you normally would, you know.
Right,
you
absolutely.
give a lot more detail than you normally would. Unless, you know, you're me, like good late into the night, delusional, sleepy. I'll tell you everything. Absolutely everything.
Well, I want to again, Tailgate Beers. I want to thank Macy Nicole and her team for coming all the way out of the way. Got a show in Michigan, which by the time this episode is released, will be done and over. But the folks in Michigan have a truly a great night to look forward to here this weekend. I'm looking forward to. I know Austin is too, hanging out with you guys tonight for Lakeview.
Absolutely,
and Jason tonight, and getting to know you guys more. But just going out of the way just to sit down with us today and spend some time. You've got some new music coming up in 2025.
We do, yeah. Ugly comes out January 30th. That's going to be the acoustic version of Ugly that'll be on the remastered version will be on the album as well. And then we also will be announcing the 21 Days with Macy Nicole podcast.
Yes.
This podcast will drop January 31st.
Yes, so we'll timing will be right.
Oh, good, that's great.
No, that's absolutely, yeah. Colin mentioned the podcast, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And
we all just need to stay in touch. We'll make a show happen here at Cruisins, and whether it's your own, if you guys just need to route it, and we have to plug it in, or if we can keep looking at the schedule, we're always, again, we always need an opener, possibly for somebody, in any way we can make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's make it happen for sure. So.
For sure, I would love that. Thank y'all so much for
Thank
having
you.
me. I really appreciate it.
I think we could sit here and talk for hours.
Oh, I will.